Hey, you guys. I am so excited to be hanging out with y'all today. It's a good day. I am in the middle of furnishing my new place. I finally moved out of one place and into the next. And I'm having this, exactly what do I want everything to look like? Do I want it to be like complete tranquility, or do I want there to be some of the outer world in my place? Right now, I'm feeling like I want complete tranquility. So, one thing that I do when I decorate specifically is pick and choose specific textures based on the moods that I want to, what is the word? Make happen. So if I want there to be some, comfort and softness and calmness, then I want some velvet, right? I may need some very soft, beat up cotton. The linens might need to feel a little lived in. I'm very particular about my fabric. So I'm in the middle of that right now. And that's coming off of the end of a tour. We just finished a tour. We had 6 shows in 3 days, one day last week. One at one point last week, and my voice is completely shot. You can probably hear it a little bit. But I'm just so glad to be in the land of the talking, in the land of the speaking, and in the land of somebody who has a place to stay that she's pretty excited about. So yeah, that's what's happening with me. What's happening with you guys? How's it going? Tell me in the comments. I want to know all about your lives, man. Who's decorating? Has anybody ever purchased anything from Sixpenny Couches? I'm getting a Sixpenny couch. I'm really excited about that. Waiting for that delivery. I'm hoping that it brings lots of rest and comfort and feelings of just lived in cotton, man. What's better than lived in cotton? So one of the reasons why I'm so particular about everything in my life, and I'm a very particular person, especially about fabrics and colors and setting up an atmosphere, is because I have bipolar type 2 and adult ADHD. Fun combo, right? As we talk a little bit, I'll kind of share with you guys what that means to me. But keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe anybody anything. I'm literally just a person who lives with a thing. And I've decided that I'd share a little bit about it. If you've never heard me talk about mental health before, welcome. This is one of my TED Talks. So how do I cope with bipolar type 2 and ADHD? How do I live a fulfilled life? When I said I was going back to recording podcasts, the main question I got was about mental health. I kind of deleted that post because I was so frustrated. I was like, can't we talk about clothes and boyfriends? But people want to talk about mental health and spirituality. So here we are. Let's talk depression. Nobody likes that subject, but everybody loves that subject at the same time. And I think the reason why people love it and hate that subject is because on one side, people want to understand it. What exactly is depression? Somebody might hear their friend say they have depression. They want to understand what their friend is going through. Then on the other hand, people with depression want to feel like they're not alone. They want to know that their symptoms or the way that they are experiencing life is not just unique to them, but that there's somebody else out there who kind of goes through something similar. So I have come up with a way to explain depression with a pretty silly story. It's called You Don't Have a Black Cat. So depression feels like this. You go to bed at night, you dream, and you do all the things you do at nighttime. And when you wake up in the morning, you are devastated about having lost your cat. It's just so devastating. The cat has been with you for all these years, and he's dead now. And your heart is a little broken, your jaw is a little down, you're frowning just a little. There's this deep-rooted sense of just sadness and disappointment. You wake up with that feeling. Get that feeling into your body just for a second. You don't got to stay there, but it's kind of heavy, right? It's a heaviness. My dead cat. My dead black cat. My fluffy dead black cat. And you're opening up your eyes and you're wiping the cold out of your eyes. You're noticing how the sun is up and you're mourning your cat. You continue to wake up, you yawn a little bit. And all of a sudden you say to yourself, Chrisette, you don't have a cat. That's depression. Depression is this feeling that something terrible has happened, will happen, or is happening, but none of it actually exists. And there's nothing that you can do to fix it because there's nothing to actually fix. So now all that you can do is tell yourself, everything's okay. The dead imaginary cat. One thing I want to say to my friends who deal with depression is that I understand that there are different types of depression, and some types of depression is a type of depression you were born with. We've all heard the term born this way. Well, some people with depression, like myself, are born this way. I was born with a dead cat that doesn't exist. From the time I came out of my mom's womb, my cat wasn't alive, right? And so if you can get that into your mind, then it kind of will help you to understand that your friends who are saying things like, I am depressed, or I feel depressed, or I deal with depression, you don't necessarily have to ask them, well, what's wrong? Or you don't have to try and get them to talk through their depression. It's an actual chemical imbalance in their body that has nothing to do with anything that you've said, nothing to do with anything that just happened, nothing to do with anything that you've done. You don't have to try and be the hero. If I could speak for some of my friends who deal with depression, and one thing they might want to tell you is, don't try to be my hero. Don't try to fix me. Don't try to save me. Love me as I am and understand that there will be moments where I suddenly have a dead cat that doesn't exist. Now, as a fun joke between you and your friends, maybe there's a little thing that you might be able to say like, babe, you're frowning. Because a lot of times as a person who deals with depression, your body goes into the natural things that a depressed body would go into. So it might go into a natural frown. You might have resting bitch face and not know it. Your eyes might turn down instead of up. You might have to work really hard to put a smile on your face so that nobody notices that you're quote unquote depressed. But in your own couch, in your house, having popcorn and a Coke, watching a movie, you probably got a face that looks kind of like if you're watching this. And you're not doing it on purpose. Sometimes when I'm walking down the street, men will look at me and say, oh my goodness, you're so beautiful. Why don't you smile? And every once in a while I'll get enraged. Don't tell me to smile. You're not in charge of me. You can't tell me what to do. Rah. But the truth is I do kind of put on a sad face by mistake all the time. I could be at a birthday party and have a sad face on. So it's not that I'm actually thinking about something that happened. It's just chemically my body is programmed to be sad. I know that sounds sad. There's so many amazing things that we can do in life to cope. But before we do, I want to talk about the other side of bipolar, which is mania. So on one side, you have this depression, right? And it's kind of a deep, dark experience. And on the other side, you have this thing called mania. Or somebody might say, I'm manic, or she's manic, or he's manic, or he's having a manic episode. Mania is when the cat just arrived. Woohoo! Cat's here! Mommy, where's the cat? Where's the cat food? Where's the cat thing that the cat pees in? Woohoo! We're going to get cat toys. And you realize you're so excited, and there is no cat. So the same cat that passed away is the same cat that lives in mania. Super excited. Or pizza delivery. You get to the door. There's no pizza. That feeling of, oh my goodness, yay. Yay what? Is mania, right? And I am completely abbreviating it. I'm completely not explaining it all full out, right? Because I don't have 86 hours to explain my entire life or anyone else's. And maybe we can unpack this little by little if you guys want to. But mania is that opposite feeling of the depression. It's that high up, excited, grand feeling. Sometimes in mania, a manic person may think that they can save stuff, right? So they might see something terrible happen and they say, I can fix it. And it could be something that's way outside of their reach, way outside of their jurisdiction or territory. But mania gives you sometimes this feeling of grandiosity, they call it. And so you feel grand and you feel big and you feel like you can. And of course, in America, people say you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. You can, be anything. But when you're manic, you really believe that. You believe it in a way that is much larger than most people. So you have this grandiosity. You want to save people and things. You want to do things the best. You want to have the biggest and the greatest. So you go between this, my cat died, and pizza delivery. And it is two polar opposite feelings, two polar opposite experiences, or really two polar opposite moods. In medicine, these two experiences on either side of the balance are called moods. And the reason why bipolar is so difficult is because the last thing anybody wants to hear is that they're moody. People don't mind saying that they are making a kind of choice, and they make a decision and they say, this is the direction I'm going. People don't mind saying that they're in control of their actions, and even if it ends up being a mistake, they don't mind being accountable for it. But when you're just called moody, now you feel undependable, like nobody can depend on you, because people are afraid that they don't know if your cat's alive or dead at any given moment of the day. The scariest part of, or the most uncomfortable part of bipolar disorder is that people don't feel safe to trust you. Right? That's the scariest part of being bipolar. But as the bipolar person, you do come up with coping mechanisms. And if you're brave, you believe that you can live a great life. And so I am brave, and I believe that I can live a great life. So my brother has bipolar type 1, and I have bipolar type 2. My brother's episodes seem to be more intense and shorter, faster. So it might be really intense, but for a very short period of time. Whereas my mania might be a little bit less intense, but last for a longer time, right? And so the moods are longer when you're bipolar type 2, and when you're bipolar type 1, the moods are a little bit shorter, right? Then also, and I don't want to get too complicated, but the cyclothymia, or the cyclical behavior of bipolar type 2 is that if you're having mood swings that are constant, like almost consistent, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, that period of up, down, up, down, up, down can also last for a much longer time. So all three things can last for a long time. The up, down, the completely down, and the completely up can all last for longer periods of time. And of course, this all varies. You know, when you talk to your psychiatrist or your doctor, you're going to hear different explanations of what makes you exactly the way that you are. But bipolar type 1 versus bipolar type 2 versus cyclothymia are all different ways to help people understand what it is that they're looking at when they see somebody with bipolar. But the person who has bipolar in their body notices that, oh gosh, I might be a little bit manic today. Oh gosh, I might be a little depressed today. Feels like my cat died. And so one of my going jokes with friends is, my cat kind of died yesterday. I'm not at my best today. And it's kind of a joke. They know nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. I'm just a freak of nature. So sometimes, like when we talk about mental health and different types of mental health disorders, it gets really spooky and freaky and scary. And people are like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to admit it if I have that. I don't want to find out that I have that, because then it means that I'm a complete weirdo and my life is up in shambles. Not so. All right, so we have bipolar, which the mania puts you with this kind of I can do anything thing. Guys, my life is a testimony of Mrs. I can do anything. I have flown around the world a bazillion times. I've did the Billboard #1 chart topping thing. I sold the however many platinum records. I am brave enough to stand on stage and make a complete fool out of myself at any given moment because I think I can. It's actually crazy. All right. The amount of braveness that I have is not normal. And so for that reason, I'm thankful that I'm wired the way that I am. Now, it might sound like a really big sacrifice to have such a huge personality with a life payoff or for a life payoff, like the life that I had the honor of living. Because, of course, on the other side of that is I've made some really detrimental mistakes publicly. I got married in Las Vegas because I thought I should. I rented out a garden at Caesar's Palace and was like, let's do this right here, right now. Then, like an idiot, I wrote a song about it. So my mistakes are huge, big disasters, but my wins are huge, big wins. And so the touchy, uncomfortable, awkward part of being bipolar is that a lot of the things that you do end up being big. And you learn by looking back and saying, Chrissy, that was a little on the bipolar side. Let's try making decisions with a little bit more thought next time. One way that I've learned to make decisions better is by taking a longer time to make them, right? So just because I'm in Vegas doesn't mean I have to get married. I was in Vegas that day and I was like, you know what do people do in Vegas? They get married. Let's do it. So you don't have to make decisions so quickly. So it has its ups and downs. The ADHD side of my life is my neurology, right? So we're talking about different chemicals with the bipolar side, but my neurology is slightly different. A slightly different part of my makeup. It has to do with synapses going from my brain to my body and telling myself what to do, right? So ADHD, I think we've all heard of it a bazillion times, but it's attention deficit disorder, or A, attention, D, deficit, H, hyperactive, D, disorder. I'm very hyper, and my attention span is a piece of crap, right? It kind of hates me. What's good about that, right? If I had to be like, oh, well, there's a bright side to everything, is that I can do 86 things at the same time. What does that mean? That means that maybe I can play the piano and sing and listen to the audience doing their thing and pick out if the bass player is doing the right thing or the wrong thing on stage. I can do that all at the same time. It means that I can pay attention to a lot of stuff all at once, and I can handle overstimulation and experience all of the stimulation at once. It also means on the other side that if I have to concentrate on one stinking thing, any other thing happening right now in this moment is completely throwing me off track. So if I'm on stage and I'm in the middle of singing a sweet love song and a lady's singing it back to me and I'm in an intimate room and she's right in front of me and she sings the wrong words, chances are I'm going to sing the wrong words with her because I'm easily distracted, right? So it's kind of this weird thing, juxtaposition between being able to do 86 things at once or needing to hyper focus and knock every single other thing out so that you can focus on one thing at a time. And it gets in the way a lot. ADHD gets in the way of my boredom limitations, right? I have to be doing something fun and active all the time. Otherwise, I'm dying of complete boredom. So I tire people around me out. People around me, I get on their nerves because I always want to be in the middle of some big, special, awesome, incredibly planned out thing. It's a lot of fun for me to always be moving and shaking. And it works for my life. I'm on tour. Now we're podcasting. I have a boutique. Sometimes I'm speaking. Every once in a while I get to be home in my bed, but hardly ever because ADHD has an appetite to keep going at all times. Mix ADHD with moodiness or grandiosity or everything's great or everything's really, really sad. Mix ADHD with intense moods and you have the colorful, vibrant person that is the artist, Chrisette Michele. So obviously this kind of works in my field of work or my career field, but does this work, on a regular Tuesday at Whole Foods? You can get a little shaky right there. All right, so this is my favorite part. How do I cope with bipolar and ADHD? I'm going to talk mostly about bipolar because I feel like there's a lot more resources out there for people with ADHD than there are for people with bipolar. Bipolar has so many stigmas attached to it. People are afraid of people with bipolar and people are afraid of finding out that they're bipolar. So I want you to know that there is hope. Okay, so cope mechanism number one is vitamins and supplements. I am a stickler about vitamins and supplements. So just write these down and do some research on them. They might be fun ways to walk through life. These vitamins and supplements help in neurology and in moodiness. So when you have bipolar, you have an exacerbated PMS experience. And so this helps to calm all that. Supplement number 1 is fish oil. Helps with your ability to think straight. Supplement number 2 is Vitex berry. Supplement number 3, believe it or not, is B12. For some reason, you would think that the thing that gives you more energy would make you all crazy and freaky, but it actually helps you to channel your focus. So B12 is really helpful for me. Magnesium calms your body like you wouldn't believe. So I take magnesium daily. Seed probiotics. Probiotics and prebiotics are super helpful for the gut biome. It calms your gut down, and in turn, it ends up calming your brain down. When your brain is trying to figure out what the heck is going on in your stomach, it gets really upset. And when your brain is trying to, shoot and fire and tell your body what to do, and there's a whole bunch of mayhem going on in the belly area, you can find that it exacerbates your moodiness. So I am a huge stickler for pre and probiotics. Vitamin C and anything zinc and vitamin C and feel better related, like elderberry, anything that helps with the immune system is always nice, because again, you don't want your body to be fighting all the time. You want your body to be calm and at ease, and not always trying to get rid of some sort of annoying disease or gut problem. And then at night, I take melatonin. So it's really, really important that I work to regulate my circadian rhythm. Another symptom of bipolar is a strange sleeping schedule. And your circadian rhythm is the rhythm in your physical body that links up with the sun and the moon and rises and falls like the sun. So you rise with the sun. Right before the sun comes up, your body begins to wake itself up. And as the sun begins to set, your body begins to slow down a little bit and prepare itself to fall asleep. That's what the normal body does. When you're bipolar, your body doesn't really do that, just like everybody else. And so I'll take melatonin an hour before sunset to begin to tell my body to start soothing itself. In the same way as supplements and being kind of religious with my supplementation, I use lighting in my home to kind of mimic the sun coming up and the sun going down, making sure that there's that warm morning day lighting, and then turning the lights towards a blue color as the sun is preparing to go down. And I keep the lights blue from just before the sun goes down until the sun goes down, right? So that my body can really be triggered by lighting. Lighting is a really, really great way to tell your body to rise and tell your body to relax. Right. And then as the sun goes down, in the same way that I'm pretty religious about supplements, in the same way that I'm pretty religious about lighting, is the same way that I'm pretty religious about, I don't want to say meditating, but I want to say pranayama or deep breathing, sort of calming the body down, tapping into the body's natural calm around the time sunset comes. So when we get around to sunset, I might adopt a breathing or pranayama practice that looks like this. I might take 4 breaths in or count to 4 for a nice deep breath in. Then I'll hold that breath for 2 to 4 beats. And then through my mouth, I'll release that breath for 4 to 8 counts. And I'll continue to do that until I feel like I've been down-regulated, so to speak. This is the same time of day that I might take my bath. This is the same time of day that I might change into loose-fitting clothing and relaxed clothing. The hardest part about this day, the hardest part about this part of the day, the down-regulation part of the day, is that sometimes the body just doesn't want to down-regulate. You've done so much that day. You're overwhelmed with whatever it is that, your cat was doing in the house, whatever it is that somebody said to you at Whole Foods, maybe it triggered you, right? And so one of my big ways that I don't talk about much to down-regulate is to lift super heavy weights. So in my room, in my bedroom, at the end of my bed, I have really heavy weights. I even have a deadlifter, like one of those long bars with the huge weights that you can put on the end. Those are in my room. My room is pretty tranquil, except for these weights. Because the body, in order to downregulate, it can use a hug sometimes. Sometimes it just needs a really, really nice tight hug. And so when you lift these heavy weights, right? Let's imagine we have 2 dumbbells in our hands and we're lifting these weights up. The muscle is pushing itself up against your body, and it's like a squeeze for your body. Sometimes I'll lift a super heavy weight. I'll just lift it and release it and lift it. And then I'll do it over my head, lift it and release it. I'll do some deadlifts. I'll throw some weights on the ground, some really heavy ones. And I'll, carefully with some research, bend at my booty and pick these weights up and get a hug around my butt, right? We need butt hugs. I'll do some, what are those things where you bend your knees? Lunges. I'll do some squats with a really heavy weight. And this is not necessarily about saying that I went to the gym to do, 6 reps of 3 sets or whatever. This is more about tightening and releasing my muscles around my body so that I get that nice tight hug. This is one of the most down-regulating practices that I have. So heavy weights are one of my favorite, best kept secrets. It literally hugs my body. And by the time I'm finished with it, I just feel almost like heavy in my physical, actual body, in my muscles and in my arms. And it kind of releases my body to just fall into the bed and go to sleep. So I end up having to do that pretty often before bed to fully downregulate. The other thing that I love is cognitive behavioral therapy. So people ask a lot of questions about what kind of therapy do you go to? Do you need a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a whateverologist? A cognitive behavioral therapist is so incredible because when you're dealing with thoughts of grandiosity or I can do anything, I can save the world right now, or you're dealing with a dead cat that doesn't actually exist, you need somebody to help talk sense with you through what it is that you're dealing with. So say if in reality you really did just something tragic or big really did just happen. Maybe your car fell into a ditch and you don't know how you're going to get to school for the next few weeks. Sometimes when we're feeling real big and grand about things, we have all these panicked ideas of what to do and how to fix it. Sometimes cognitive behavioral therapy helps you to calm down, come back to center, and logically think through the next steps. What I find as a bipolar person, and this is a little embarrassing, but since I know that we're in this together, I'll tell you what I find as a bipolar person is that oftentimes solutions are really easy. Oftentimes there's some really simple solution that just does not come to the bipolar mind because I am so excited or enraged or nervous or whatever. And my emotions are more intense than most people's. And so, my thoughts on how to fix something are these huge astronomical thoughts when really the answer to your car being in the ditch and you having a test tomorrow is take the bus, but you don't think that far because you're and then this thing right here, this particular coping mechanism, I don't know if it would be called a coping mechanism, but I'm going to call it that today. It's to use faith-based values as anchors and boundaries, right? So just as a person in general, we want to have things that anchor us and things that make us say yes or no, right? What are my values? What are my value systems? What are my principles? I have to stick really, really, really strongly to faith-based values because I can get so grand or so low. I need something memorized to always, anchor myself back to or to think back to so that my choices are easy to make because they come from this is who I am as a person as opposed to this is who I am as an emotion, right? Instead of thinking of myself as this is how I feel, so this is what I'll do, I have to think about this is who I am. This is what I believe, and so this is what I'll do. Faith-based values as anchors and boundaries. Character principles of the Holy Spirit is the next one. And this is my personal favorite. So coming from a family who really has a deep understanding about mental health and mental health awareness, parents who studied behavioral science and special education, I have an advantage that I've gotten to receive a lot of love and care and help around what it means to be bipolar. But there are so many of us who say, well, it's a stigma, it's embarrassing, it's awkward, it's weird. I want to encourage some of you who might be listening to know that there are character principles that no matter what you are or who you are, there are things that you can kind of fall back on as the idea of who you want to be. A big part of having a mood disorder or a neurological imbalance or disorder is having willpower. I know that's really finger pointy, dogmatic, or kind of rude to say, like, oh, you just got to have willpower. But I'm saying it as the girl with the bipolar. And I'm saying it because I want you to know that deep down on the inside of you, if you're brave, you can find a part of you that says, I want to be the best that I can be. And I don't want anything to hold me back. Which kind of puts tears in my eyes. It gets me a little bit emotional. And it's why I was hesitant to do this particular subject as a podcast. Because I never wanted to offend anybody. And I never wanted to make it seem like it was just this easy thing. Oh, it's an easy fix. Just will to be better. Character, as a person who's walking a life in the Holy Spirit, is based on these 9 concepts or thoughts or ideas that if you can embrace them, you can have a little bit more of them every single day. But it's going to take you taking a leap and saying, I'm not perfect now. I don't know that I'll ever be perfect, but I can get a little better each day. These character principles are based on peace, gentleness, self-control, kindness, long-suffering, love, goodness, faithfulness, and patience. They are the most uncomfortable words that I use on myself every single day. But every single time that I'm running into an issue, I fall back on what are called the fruits of the Spirit. And those are the fruits of the Spirit. The Spirit in and of itself is this, beautiful place. It's got all the right ideas, right? We just have to tap into it. And it's really hard because we have humanity in the way. My bipolar's in the way. My bipolar's in the way of me having peace. My bipolar's in the way of me being gentle. My ADHD is in the way of my self-control, right? This is what it means to be a human being. Bipolar is just a really fun way to describe human. So what I tend to fall back on and what I tend to think about to keep myself happy, right? Because happiness is important. Being down on yourself because you have ADHD or bipolar is not nice. It's not nice to yourself. You want to have good thoughts. So what I fall back on are the fruits of the Spirit. If somebody is shouting at me while I'm trying to concentrate on something, I just begin to think about the word self-control. I know it's not a solve all, but it's the beginning of giving yourself instruction. The fruits of the Spirit, peace, gentleness, self-control, kindness, long-suffering, love, goodness, faithfulness, and peace are all the beginnings of instruction to becoming a better person. Little itsy bit by little itsy bit. So whenever life is smacking you in the face or beating you up or it's hard or your cat is absolutely positively dead and it's devastating, you can at the very least begin to think about peace. You can at the very least begin to think about goodness. Start to think about these fruits of the Spirit. Start to define them and say, okay, well, what is peace? Okay, well, let me see. Do I have a little bit of peace here? And whatever little bit of these fruit you find around, you hold on to for a dear life. I hold on to loungy cotton t-shirts for dear life. And when life is smacking me in the face, I am throwing on a soft cotton t-shirt. Because at this point, it's the only thing I know that I can fall back on. Where's my peace? Where's my love? Where's my goodness? Who can I do something nice for? Because I'm feeling really, really irritable. Who can I be kind to right now? Where can I exercise some patience? Because I'm feeling really out of sorts and all over the place. You can totally have peace. It's a gift the Holy Spirit desires to give you freely, but it's a gift you have to exercise in order to grow. Okay? It comes to you as a seed, and it's got to be planted, and you have to cultivate it, and you have to use another character gift called self-control in order to exercise it. Peace is a discipline. Your thoughts or the mind only succeed when we practice self-control and daily discipline. So don't be discouraged. Okay, I know that putting these labels on yourself and wondering how to show up in the world can be really scary, but don't be discouraged. Everybody didn't get the same mind, struggles, battles, hardships. We all received specific challenges to build specific character. And if you're like me and your challenge happens to be bipolar or ADHD, just know that God loves you so much and He created the Holy Spirit for people just like me and you. It will build you, grow you, mature you. So, with all this being said, lifting weights, taking your vitamins, taking your B12, your magnesium, don't forget it, that fish oil, I know it's a lot to remember. Can I just give you one little thing that I want you to try and remember and repeat to yourself on a daily basis? It's one scripture to memorize. Whenever you're having a hard time, remember this instruction. Paul gave the Philippian church a few key items to think upon. I remember when I was going through my wits end, the worst experience of my entire life, which was divorce, by the way, I pasted the scripture on the wall in the place that I stayed, and it got me through a lot. So when your mind wants to go astray and rush into thoughts that are overwhelming, radical, right, because we get those, too grand or exhausting, look to this passage. Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, I think it is, says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things." In the midst of your storm, can you think about something true? Can you find something noble or of good principle or good principle value to think about? Is there a thought that you can find full of purity and good moral value? Perhaps simply finding something lovely in a time where your thoughts feel the opposite. There were times where I was feeling so low, I would just go and pick a flower and look at it and say, look what God did. Just something lovely and beautiful. Where your thoughts feel the exact opposite of pure, lovely, positive, or beautiful. The truth is, a positive, peaceful, lovely, pure mindset goes against our human nature. My human nature has bipolar in it. My human nature is all over the place. We're programmed to worry, and some of us more than others. So give yourself some grace. Let go of the thoughts that don't fit into Philippians 4 and 8 description and find ones that do. Write them down if you have to. But you can control your mind. I know that's a lot to say. I'll probably get in trouble for saying it. But I'm talking about somebody who knows. I've been all over the place. Out of control and in control. Manic, depressed. I work really hard to stay centered. It is a daily practice and a life of discipline. Little bit by tiny little bit, you'll have to crave it. You'll have to need it. You'll have to want it. But a sound and sober mind is available to you. Bipolar, ADHD, and mental health are human conditions. They're just what make you human. Neurodivergence is real and it affects the human capability. Your battle isn't with your wiring, although it is so frustrating at times to have the wiring that we have. The battle is with your spirit and your soul. Focus your improvements in the spirit space and slowly watch your humanity follow. That's my testimony. That's my experience. Maybe one day we'll come back to the podcast and talk about how out of control I've been, how much binge drinking I did, how much promiscuity there was in my life, how much out of control behavior I experienced and indulged in deeply, and how I learned one day at a time, one step at a time, to find my self-control by finding those fruits in the spirit that I mentioned, by finding those thoughts in Philippians 4:8 that I mentioned, and working really, really hard to stay disciplined and focused. That's what it means to be a disciple, to self-discipline, right? This is my testimony day by day, bit by bit, and only by the grace of God. I wish you well on your mental health journey. And I know that a lot of you have so many questions, so ask them in the comment section below. You can email me too. I know that this is a subject that you keep asking me to come back to. So if there are more questions or thoughts, I'm going to have some therapist friends who would love to come and hang out and talk with us through all of this. But I hope that this particular episode is encouraging for those of you who might be going through some mental health issues. Don't be afraid to get diagnosed. Don't be afraid to talk to a healthcare specialist. Don't be afraid to find out what your neurology is, what your wiring is. Because once you find it out, you'll be able to take the practical steps that I mentioned, like the supplements and the weights and the lights and the fabrics and the setting up your space. And you'll be able to know what to pray about, what to pray for, and what to work on in your spirit. I love you guys so much. Till next time, peace.